So now that I've talked about the 5 best movies I've reviewed, let's talk about the 5 worst. Now, I've reviewed a lot of bad movies, and it's very hard to choose which 5. But after doing some careful research, observed all the positives and negatives of each film, I believe I have picked the worst of the worst. So, let's see which ones made it from the bottom to the top 5. Number 5, Drop Dead Fred. This was one of the very first movies I reviewed, and also one of the first bad movies I reviewed. Now, I am a huge fan of Rik Mayall. He's hilarious in The Young Ones and Bottom and everything else. However, there are those times where he crosses the line from being funny to just annoying. Well, in Drop Dead Fred, he crosses the line and goes far and beyond. Fred is just a loathsome, mean-spirited masochist whose sleazy and destructive antics all result in his childhood friend Lizzie getting the blame. There's just so much wasted talent here. Phoebe Cates and Carrie Fisher act like dimwits, while Rick spends the entire time chewing the scenery, making as many juvenile and vulgar jokes as possible. And it all just sounds so forced, almost like it's trying too hard to be a complete Beetlejuice copy. Now, I have seen Rik Mayall do much better jobs on screen, on stage, and even in animation. He deserves better than this. The Bastard. Number 4, Secret of NIMH 2, Timmy to the Rescue. This is a movie that's so bad that I actually had to review it twice. The first time I did it, I was still a little green. I didn't completely do my research on the movie. I kept ripping off other people's jokes, and I kept saying NIMH wrong. What was wrong with me anyway? Well, I was able to get rid of that version, and I made a revised version a year later. But even with all the revisions, there are still a lot of plot holes I forgot to cover. Like, if Timmy is the chosen one, why do the rats just have him stand around doing nothing but wait until something actually happens? And why is Timmy made the chosen one rather than his older brother Martin? I mean, if Martin had been the chosen one instead, he wouldn't have gotten jealous, gotten captured, and went crazy, and this whole prophecy would have been void. But the biggest crime this movie commits, it completely ignores Mrs. Brisby. Why do the townspeople all worship Jonathan? Yes, he saved the rats from NIMH, hooray. But Mrs. Brisby was also the one who unleashed the amulet's power and saved her home. And she didn't get any comeuppance for that? That's blasphemy. And Timmy isn't even a good hero. In fact, he hardly does anything heroic aside from saying Jenny and Martin at the end. The person who actually does stop Martin's evil plans is in fact Jenny. Now, I admire Hynden Walsh, but Jenny just gets on my nerves. She just seems too spunky, and the relationship between her and Timmy is the equivalent of some fanfic writer trying desperately to get his characters to make out. Dude, they just met. Give them time! In fact, all the other characters have become completely lifeless. How the hell did they get people like Ralph Macchio, William H. Macy, Harvey Korman, and Doris Roberts, and have them deliver such lame performances? The only actor who really stands out is Eric Idle as Evil Martin. Now, Eric Idle has always been my favorite Monty Python member, and as horrible as that song number was, it's easily the best part of the whole movie, all because of how insane it is. Thank you, Mr. Idle. You took something that was crap and turned it into crazy crap. Other than that, the animation is awful. Every character looks like a bloated bowling pin with arms and legs, and it's just a sugar-coated, half-hearted, unnecessary sequel to a good film. And it's an obvious sign that MGM Animation was on its last legs at this point. Shame on you, Magma. Shame on you. Number 3, The Magic Voyage. Funny story about the review itself. I originally had it scheduled to be released in late February or early March, but I had to postpone it due to my Felladay review with Huey Toonmore. Sometime before that, Eli Stone, aka the cartoon hero, made his own review of The Magic Voyage before I did. We even agreed on having this joke at the end where Hero tells me to review The Magic Voyage as well. But it gets even funnier because exactly 2 weeks after I released my review of The Magic Voyage, the Nostalgia Critic then released his own review of the same damn movie. How does that happen? How does a 20-year-old movie suddenly develop such a bandwagon? Just some giant coincidence. Anyway, the movie, my lord, it's a mess. Never have I seen animation so clunky, dubbing so bad, and so much non-stop noise that I feel almost tempted to find the movie's director and bash his brains in. Now, Dom DeLuise has been in about 5 or 6 movies I've reviewed, and all of his performances were pretty hammy, but this is him at his hammiest. In fact, what the hell is his character even doing throughout this thing? Most of the time he's blabbering nonsense, other times he's running around in his underwear, and other times he's acting like he's having some kind of acid trip. And yes, the telescope dick. Actually, the Christopher Columbus plot just feels like it was thrown in at the last minute, because you have this other subplot revolving around Pico who is trying to save Maryland from this swarm of bees in America. Does that even sound like a Christopher Columbus tale? Nothing in this thing makes any sense, the characters never shut up, and it just feels like nobody behind the scenes cared about what they were doing. Germany, you disappoint me. Number 2. Fred the Movie. Damn it, I can never get any luck with movies with Fred in the title, can I? In 2010, I listed Fred Figglehorn as the most smegged up YouTube failure, and for good reason. He's unbelievably annoying and unbelievably unfunny. So what tempted Nickelodeon to give him a movie? I say because they were desperate. Nickelodeon hadn't made anything decent in years, and since Fred was one of the most popular YouTube celebrities in 2009 and 2010, giving Fred a movie would certainly make Nickelodeon popular again, right? Well, depends on how you define popular. Not only did Fred the Movie sink the channel quality even lower, but it also succeeded in releasing the worst Nickelodeon movie in history. There is absolutely nothing enjoyable about Fred the Movie. All the gags consist of cutaway jokes, a la Family Guy, as well as random scenes that have absolutely nothing to do with the movie, and it's all topped off with Fred's high-pitched screaming. How delicious. The other actors also put in appalling performances. Pixie Lott may have the look, but she can't act her way out of a wet paper bag. So Hoban Fallon Hogan, who's known for her minor roles in a lot of crummy films, spends the entirety of the movie drunk, and John Cena is, well, John Cena. Now Lucas, do yourself a favor, knock it off with all these annoying characters and actually learn what true comedy is. Go see a comedian stand-up, watch some of Mel Brooks or Judd Apatow's movies, attend comedy classes, and then who knows, you may become the next Sam Kinison. Or not. And the number 1 worst movie I've reviewed is Boku no Pico. Yeah, were you honestly surprised? Okay, big explanation as to why the hell I reviewed this thing. I first found out about it after watching Helsing 920's reaction and review of it. And let me tell you, if I ever see Emmer, I'm gonna knock his 19-stone ass into the ground for even introducing me to this. After I made a joke about it in my BFG review, I started getting requests like crazy to do it. Well, a few months later, I finally gave in to the madness, and the results were painful. This anime left me feel mentally and physically sick. Basically, it's about a cross-dressing boy who gets mistaken as a girl by some desperate dumbass and ends up getting into sexual encounters with him. Afterwards, the guy just disappears, and Pico does the same thing to another kid named Chico. Then the anime goes Crystal Skull and introduces us to some alien character named Coco, who Pico and Chico have sex with atop Tokyo Tower. And that's Boku no Pico in a nutshell. There's no story, it's just 3 prepubescent transsexuals farting around and having sex. Like, what kind of sick pedophore thought making this was such a good idea? Did they actually think 2 little kids fucking each other is considered sexy? Oh, when I reviewed this anime, I unleashed absolute hell on it. Bashing the broken writing, the character stupidity, the laughable dialogue, the horrible music, and the disgusting sex scenes. In fact, I went so AWOL on it that I also did something that I regret doing, and that was making fun of the character's homosexuality. Let's see, Lyric Shooter for doxing and being a dumbass, PewDiePie for ear raping and making rape jokes, Hardcore Kid for making gay jokes. Oh, come on! Now, yaoi isn't my thing, and I don't hate gay people, but what the hell was I thinking when I made all those gay jokes? Why did I harp so much on the character's sexuality instead of the pedophilia? Honestly, I don't know. Either because I was pissed off at having to constantly rewatch this thing in order to write notes down, or I didn't know that most of the jokes I was making were offending people. Ever listen to Opie and Anthony on Sirius XM? Their show is labeled as a cultural nightmare of sexism, racism, and homophobia, complete with frequent use of the word fag. But still, I think they're funny, and I base some of the jokes off of their material. Still, I can't excuse myself for what I said. I do apologize to those I offended because I know what I said was offensive and in bad taste. However, it still does not change my thoughts on the people who made this anime. They should be ashamed of themselves. It's bad enough that you have a young kid like Pico being sexually assaulted by an older adult, but then you have that same kid do the same thing to other kids his age? And this anime is targeted at adult males who have an interest in Shota? Why? This is the kind of dreck that's on the same disturbance level of Anthony Legato's disgusting furry fat fiction. Don't they know crap like this is what gets people thrown in jail? And what tempted them to move ahead and make that Maid Boy cartoon? This is the lowest in morality that you can go when it comes to animation, and I'm just thankful that I never have to review anything like this again. Still, there's plenty of bad movies to review in 2013, and no, there's no child porn. Stay tuned for later this month where I review the final film in the Fred Figglehorn trilogy, Fred 3, Camp Fred. Peace out, guys.